For decades, the entire world believed a lie that if you wanted the best, the fastest, the most beautiful, the most thrilling car money could ever buy, you had to suffer for it. A supercar was supposed to be temperamental, unreliable, cramped, deafening, and ready to break your heart and empty your wallet at any given moment. That was simply the price of greatness, and everyone accepted it. The Italians had ruled this world for generations. Ferrari, Lamborghini, rolling sculptures that demanded pain in exchange for their beauty, and nobody dared to challenge them. Certainly not a company best known for sensible family sedans and motorcycles. But in 1989, that company did the unthinkable. Honda, yes, Honda, built a supercar. And it didn't just compete with the Italian legends. It exposed them. It embarrassed them. It forced the greatest names in the world to tear up everything they thought they knew. This is the story of the car that humbled Ferrari. This is the story of the NSX. To understand why the NSX mattered so much, you first have to understand the world it was born into. In the 1980s, the supercar was the ultimate dream. A Ferrari, a Lamborghini. Their posters hung on the bedroom wall of nearly every kid on Earth, the absolute pinnacle of speed, beauty, and pure desire. But there was a dark secret hiding behind those gorgeous, flowing shapes. They were, quite honestly, a nightmare to actually live with. The pedals were often bent off to one side, squeezed around the front wheel arch. The cabins were cramped and brutally, unbearably hot. Visibility out of them was terrible. They were heavy to steer, punishing in traffic, and they could be, catastrophically, wallet-destroyingly unreliable. You could spend an absolute fortune on the car of your dreams, and then spend your weekends watching it sit in a garage, broken, waiting weeks for a single part to arrive from Italy. But here was the strangest part of all. The world had simply accepted this. Everyone agreed, without ever questioning it, that this was just how supercars were. Temperamental, demanding, a beautiful, maddening compromise. The suffering wasn't seen as a flaw. It was part of the romance, part of the legend. To own a supercar was to enter into a stormy, passionate, painful love affair, and nobody ever imagined it could possibly be any other way. Nobody, that is, except a small group of engineers on the other side of the world, in Japan, who looked at all of this and quietly asked one simple, revolutionary question. Why can't a supercar be as thrilling as a Ferrari and as dependable as a Honda? Now, you really have to appreciate just how absurd that idea sounded at the time. Because Honda made sensible things, reliable little Civics, practical family Accords, motorcycles, and even lawnmowers. Brilliant machines? Yes, but about as far from an exotic Italian supercar as it was humanly possible to get. Asking Honda to build a Ferrari killer was like asking the maker of a good, dependable kitchen knife to suddenly forge a legendary samurai sword. The world would not have blamed them one bit for failing. But Honda wasn't intimidated by the Italians. They were inspired by them, and they set out to build something that had never, ever existed before. A car with the soul, the fire, and the raw, screaming speed of the greatest supercars on the planet, but one that you could start every single morning, drive to work in the pouring rain, crawl through rush hour traffic, park at the grocery store, and simply, completely trust. A supercar without the suffering, the dream without the nightmare. And they poured everything they had into making it real. They pushed the boundaries of what was even possible. The NSX became the first mass-produced car in the history of the world, with a body built entirely from aluminum, not steel, like almost every other car on the road, making it dramatically lighter and far more agile than the heavy exotics it was hunting. A world first, from a company nobody expected, and its engine A jewel of a V6 with Honda's legendary VTEC technology, revved all the way to the heavens with a howl that sent chills down your spine. Every single detail was obsessed over, agonized over, perfected, and yet the car still wasn't quite finished. It needed one final, almost magical touch. It needed the hands of a god. In that era, there was one name, spoken with something close to reverence across the entire world of motorsport. Ayrton Senna, a Formula One driver of almost supernatural talent, a man widely considered, even to this day, to be one of the greatest ever to sit in a racing car. And by a stroke of fate, Senna raced for a Formula One team powered by Honda engines. So Honda did something brilliant. In February of 1989, at the Suzuka circuit in Japan, they handed Senna an early prototype of the NSX, and they asked him one simple question: what do you think? And what happened next would become legend. Senna drove that car the way only Senna could, at the absolute limit, feeling everything, sensing tiny things through the steering wheel that ordinary drivers simply could not feel. And when he was done, he came back with a verdict that would reshape the entire car. He told them, with characteristic humility, that he wasn't sure he could even give proper advice on a mass production car, but that he felt the car was just a little bit fragile. The chassis, he sensed, needed to be stiffer, stronger, more sure of itself, at the very edge. Now, here's the thing. Most companies would have smiled politely, thanked the famous driver for his time, taken a nice photo for the brochure, and quietly ignored him. The car was nearly finished. It was almost ready to sell. Tearing it apart now to chase one driver's feeling would cost an absolute fortune. But Honda did not ignore him. They listened. They went back. They tore deep into the chassis, and they increased its rigidity by an astonishing 50%, chasing the instinct of the greatest driver in the world. And the result was a car touched by genius, a supercar, partly shaped by the hands of a legend. When the NSX was finally revealed to the world, the reaction was pure disbelief. Here was a car that could run wheel to wheel with a Ferrari that was just as fast, just as thrilling, just as intoxicating to drive hard. But it had no temper. The visibility was superb. The cabin was cool and comfortable. The controls were light, precise, and welcoming. And above all else, it was reliable. You could drive it every single day of your life, and it would simply never, ever let you down. For the very first time in history, you no longer had to choose between greatness and sanity, between the dream and the nightmare. The NSX gave you both at once with a smile. And the impact on the rest of the industry was nothing short of seismic. Because now, the Italians could no longer hide behind their old excuse that suffering was simply part of the deal. The NSX had set out to beat the Ferrari of its day. And when Ferrari answered with a car called the 348, the little Honda outclassed it so thoroughly that Ferrari was sent back to the drawing board. The result of that panic was the F355, a genuinely brilliant Ferrari, and one that only exists in the form it does because a Japanese company forced them to be better. Think about that for just a moment. A company famous for economy cars and motorcycles had just taught Ferrari itself how to build a better supercar. And that is how you humble a legend. So what does the NSX really teach us? That the rules the whole world accepts as unchangeable, unquestionable truth are very often nothing more than a failure of imagination. Everyone believed a supercar had to be a compromise, that true greatness simply had to come wrapped in pain, and it took an outsider, a company that nobody in Italy took seriously, to simply, stubbornly refuse to believe it. The NSX was never the fastest car. It wasn't the most expensive. It wasn't the most extreme. or the most flamboyant. What made it immortal was something so much deeper than a number. It was proof. Proof that perfection didn't have to hurt. That you could chase greatness without worshiping suffering. That patience and precision and a simple, quiet refusal to ever accept good enough could stand toe-to-toe with 100 years of tradition and win. Honda didn't just build a supercar, they built a statement. A quiet, flawlessly engineered statement that whispered to the whole world that the impossible is only ever impossible until someone refuses to accept it. And because of one beautiful, perfect little car from Japan, the world of supercars would never, ever be the same again. So let me ask you, would you take the temperamental Italian legend with all of its fire and all of its beautiful flaws? Or would you take the flawless machine from Japan that quietly did it better? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one, because that is what this channel is all about. Not just the machines, but the moments of courage, the flashes of pure genius, and the people bold enough to change what everyone else swore was impossible. If you want more stories like this one, you already know what to do. Stick around. We're only just getting started. I'll see you on the next one.